right, we are back to the One Life Podcast, season number 3. Sitting here with our lead pastor, Pastor Jared. We're in a new studio.
It's pretty great.
New school year, new sermon series. All the new has hit us.
Yeah, even like this morning, dropping the kids off in the carpool lane, like we are back in the full rhythm. So,
and it's still 115 outside. So
it's brutal.
It's great.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, so we're gonna. You took a few weeks off.
Yep.
We took a couple months off from the podcast, but for the month of July, kind of lead us through. You took some time off. How was your time off, and what are you most excited for coming back to things?
Yeah, I mean, some people call it like a sabbatical, and we kind of use that word a little bit. But like all the pastors that I talk to are like, you're only gone for 4 weeks. You can't call that a sabbatical. Like it's just extended time. So the way I like to say it is, the elders looked at me and said, you've never taken your full vacation time in a year you've been here. So why don't you just make sure you take the time this year and just get away and rest. And it's interesting, like the first little bit of it, that was the family. We went to California and did a lot of time on the beach. Took Gianna to Universal Studios. She's a big Harry Potter fan, so that was fun to experience that with her.
We just lost a lot of old church.
Yeah, they're all like I have been canceled apparently. So we did that, and then Amanda and I then took off for Italy for a time, and that was amazing. Like it exceeded every expectation. Learned a lot. I mean, we didn't know first time we either of us have ever been there, so kind of learned like, if we go back, and we probably will because it was that great. Maybe just some differences of like, tours and seeing all the sights. But a couple things about Rome. What's really cool, being married to a runner. Is that at 5 a.m. she's like, we are going for a run. And that's a normal thing for us, even on vacation. Like we still stay pretty active. But making it a point to get up early as soon as the sun was up, and we would run the streets of Rome. You could go to Trevi Fountain and the Spanish Steps, and nobody is there.
Oh, wow.
So you're able to see all of those things that if 2 hours later, the lines are packed and everything else. So that was kind of cool doing that with her. And then we went up to Tuscany and did the wine country deal, and that was just.
Did you have the best pasta you've ever had in your life?
Yes.
Okay.
We went to a pasta cooking class.
Oh, wow.
That somebody told us, hey, they go to this winery, they have a restaurant, and they have an old little Italian lady who makes the best pasta. And so then we did a cooking class with her.
Okay.
And then we went took the tour of the winery, like on a little Jeep, and then we got back and she had all of those pastas cooked with different sauces, and it was pretty spectacular. And Amanda's like, we're going to do this with our kids when we get home. I know how to do it. And it's not as good as what it was. And it's the flour and it's the water and it's all of those things that they have there. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible.
For 99 cents, you can just get a box.
Yeah. And we still do that because it's easy, but there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But, so it was nice. I feel rested. There was a little bit of an issue. Like I got really sick in California, and then Amanda got sick in Italy. So minus those, and I'm still kind of dealing with that. Still have the cough, but other than that, it was a great.
Yeah,
it was a great trip. Somebody yesterday at church or Sunday at church said, "You look so rested." I'm like, "Guys, I didn't have to deal with you for 4 weeks." But all that shirt and said that I really did miss. Being here but the staff, I mean, you guys are all incredible. Like we didn't miss a beat, had an incredible month of July. Attendance was, compared to last year in the summer where we are, it's been great.
It's great.
So praise God.
And you jumped right into it this weekend.
Yeah, man.
We had a busy weekend. So walk us through Night of Worship, some of your perspective of that, and then talk about our like mission trip breakouts we had this year too.
Yeah, I mean, so Night of Worship is always, it's just, I like doing it. We do it a couple times a year. Like we do it as we end the 21 days of prayer and fasting, beginning of the year, kind of like a cherry on top. Mm-hmm. And then the last 2 years we've done it kind of starting with school, kind of just a moment to recenter. And I mean, those are just really special moments that we have as a church family, just extended time of prayer. And we're just hearing stories from our staff of people that are coming up and people in our church that are dealing with real heavy burdens. Yeah. And I think it's just a really special and unique moment for us because we can't do that every Sunday morning, but to pray for our people, to worship, and something powerful happens in those moments as we just turn off all the outside noise and turn our attention to God. So we get to experience that. But then we had the breakouts, and blown away. I think a couple hundred people stuck around and to hear about mission trips and the vision behind all of it. So really excited for the future, and many people that are showing interest to go on a mission trip this next year. So. Yeah, that's all you guys. You guys planned it all and did it all, and it was, from my perspective, really, really fruitful experience.
We're excited about it. We've said before, like, our goal is to send 1,000 different people on a global mission trip. So this was kind of the funnel for us to get as many people to say, "Hey, I'm interested in this."
That's right.
And
maybe
so
not
it was a great experience.
2025, but maybe they need to push it off to 2026, 2027. But just putting that in front of our people, and the response has been pretty overwhelming. So
that's great. So this weekend kicked off our Revelation series. I know you've been excited about this for a while. So I think the first question as we dive into the sermon content is just like, why Revelation? Why did you decide to do this? We got the next 11 more weeks to go, but kind of give us here's why we chose to do a series through the book of Revelation.
So every year we do that Easter survey. If you could hear a sermon series on anything or a message on anything, what would you want to hear? And every single year, it's like end times, prophecy, Revelation.
Right.
And so I just decided our Asking for a Friend series is going to be the book of Revelation. And there's a lot of good resources that are out there that I've just been gleaning from and leaning into. So I just thought, man, I think I'm prepared for this conversation. And truth be told, and I kind of joked about it in the weekend service, like, it is 2024 and there's an election, and we sit here right now, like, things are starting to unfold in the Middle East, Iran and Israel. The stock market is struggling, right? All of these things, you're like, man, people's senses are just up to all of this. Like, what is happening? And the book of Revelation, for so long, I think it's been hijacked by really bad Bible teaching. And it's been used for fear. We can scare our people, and that's not the book of Revelation. It's not meant to scare you. It's actually meant to be a source of incredible joy and peace. And really, it's meant to instill like courage in the body of Christ, that regardless of what's happening in the world around you, right, we win. We're going to be okay. And I love the idea. And Matt Chandler, so I'm going to throw this book up. This is the book, The Overcomers. This is his book on Revelation. Had it quite a bit, or leaning into it quite a bit for this sermon series. He mentions this over and over again. I'm going to rip it off. Like, the book of Revelation was not written that, hey, 3,000 years from now, church, you're going to be okay. No, right now. 7 churches in Asia, all you've ever known is deep persecution. Like, right now, you're going to be okay. And I think what a message that is for us right now in 2024, regardless of who wins the election, regardless of how everything plays out in the Middle East. Body of Christ, brothers and sisters, we're going to be okay. And it's time for us not to shrink into fear, but to live out our God-given calling. And I think we have a unique opportunity with the crazy that is going on, to have some effective years of ministry. And I mentioned that even at our night of worship. I don't want to pastor a church where we just manage Christians and just play it safe. Like, this is a moment for us to walk into all that God has for us. And the book of Revelation is actually going to give us the blueprint for how to do that. So
that's good.
That's why, the big why of what we're doing Revelation.
So you broke down a few different things. You said first it's a letter. Right? So it's not necessarily written to us, but it is written for us, right? And a lot of what you just said, like, it's meant to encourage us. And I agree. Like, I grew up, like, Revelation is scary, like big time scary. Stay away from it. I even told our team.
Part of it was like the cheesy movies, right, that came out of Christians getting their heads chopped off in guillotines, and it's just it's been, or you'd have prophecy conferences and guys would show up and be like, this event in 1980s, and books would be written of why Jesus is coming back in 1989. And then they end up being a false prophet, right? But that's the stuff that I grew up with in a Baptist church. I think a lot of our people did too. And it's just, that's why I say the book of Revelation has been hijacked by really bad Bible teaching. So hopefully I'm not going to do that. Hopefully it'll be just a fresh take on the book of Revelation, and not meant to scare our people.
So it's not only a letter, right? But it's also a prophecy. And I love what you said, like, we need to quit asking the question of what's next. or what happens next. Instead, ask the question, what does John see next? So that in itself, and then you use the illustration, was it Revelation 12
Yep.
with the dragon and the baby, and you referenced the Christmas story?
That's right.
Okay, so this is crazy. And I heard over at our East Mesa campus, as you're reading it, the person behind me was like, "Is that the Christmas story?"
That's right.
Like they just starting to connect the dots before. But so walk us through a little bit of that, because we're going to talk about the prophecy thing.
Sure.
And I don't know, when did you do your Daniel series?
2 years ago.
Okay.
Culture of compromise.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about like the unseen world a little
Yeah.
bit. I know that kind of seems like Stranger Things, like a different realm, but like this idea of things behind the scenes going on.
Yep.
So I think a question people have with like the dragon and the baby is like, is this a window into like an unseen world of the spirit of Babylon that we've talked about before? Or is this just like him using imagery for us to be able to picture how important this moment was?
So I think it's both. I think it's both and.
Okay.
I think some of it is 100% imagery into the prince and the power of the air. We get a window into all of that, which is what apocalyptic literature does, is it puts words and images to things that we don't see with our natural eye.
Yeah.
So the Revelation actually talks quite a bit about the spirit of Babylon that is alive and it is working, and the dragon, the enemy that's... So all of those things are gonna unfold. So the question I always get, right, and it'll be fun to talk about this more on the podcast than on the stage, is like the Nephilim, right, in Genesis and Numbers and UFOs and the other podcasts, blurry creatures, all these types of things, and I'm like, all those things are UFOs, man. Those are windows for us, are being opened into the demonic world that is at place. And one of the things that is needed for us in 2024 is to have our eyes opened to all of those things that are taking place, so we don't make people that disagree with us in a political stance the enemy.
Yeah.
They are not the enemy. The spirit behind everything, the ideology that's being promoted or the agenda, like that's the enemy, not people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things of understanding the context of this as a letter to the 7 churches is so helpful, because if anybody should have made Rome the enemy, it would have been the Christians because of their deep persecution. But instead, they didn't make the people of Rome or the government of Rome the enemy. No, they leaned in, they loved, they continued to serve, and eventually more than half of the Roman citizens became followers of Jesus by 325 AD. And it's because they refused to make the people, they understood there's a spirit that is at work behind all of it. And that's why it actually gives us courage. Like, it's okay. Like, we're in this. Those people aren't bad.
Yeah.
It's the demonic world that's so yes, Revelation chapter 12, they're like windows for us to peer in to be like, oh. So it's not just Mary in a manger and a baby in swaddling clothes and shepherds and light our candles.
Yeah. This sweet moment.
That is a fact. That is the Christmas story. But the spiritual side of that is there's a war in heaven.
Yeah.
And the dragon was trying to devour the offspring. And guess what we find out? Revelation 12, 13, and 14, that now the church is the offspring. And the dragon is trying to destroy us.
Yeah.
But open up your eyes.
Yeah.
This is what's unfolding. And that's why let's fight the dragon. Let's not fight people. Let's try to minister and give grace and love our neighbor.
Yeah.
And not hate them.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what. So this book too, Destroyer of the Gods. This is the early Christian distinctives in the Roman world. I've referenced this a couple times in sermons, but this gives a clear distinction of what early Christians were doing in the Roman world while they were facing deep persecution. And so I lean quite heavily on that for the first part of this sermon series as well.
Good.
Yeah.
So it's a letter, it's a prophecy, and then the third one is it's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one
that
got me a little bit.
That freaks everybody out.
Everybody out. So when I think of apocalypse, I immediately think of zombies.
And we might talk about that later in Revelation.
Okay.
Maybe not.
All right. Well, so like explain, I guess, first, like what definition of apocalypse. I think I even Googled this during your sermon just to make sure, like, do I understand what an apocalypse is? And then after that, talk a little bit about what is, I think I'm saying this right, apocalyptic literature.
That's
right. So explain what the apocalypse is.
Well, Revelation 1:1 says this is a revelation. Well, the Greek word Revelation 1:1 is the word apocalypsis, That's where we get the word apocalypse.
Okay.
And all it means is simply to unveil and to unfold the events that are happening. And apocalyptic literature does that with great imagery. This is why it is so hard for us Westerners to wrap our mind around the book of Revelation, because we don't like to learn this way.
Yeah.
We like to learn with the fact. Give me the facts.
Yeah.
And I'm the first person to kind of admit this. Well, I think I've admitted on the podcast before, but like sci-fi movies, like I don't like them. A lot of it is because it just has a lot of apocalyptic imagery.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars, for instance, it's full of all of this. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like all of that stuff has a lot, but they are fantastic movies. Like they're works of art.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned, Darrell Johnson mentions this in his book Discipleship on the Edge. Apocalyptic literature is trying to hook you deep inside, not just give you the facts. Like I'm a fact learner. I can memorize things really easily, but that's very linear in our thinking.
Yeah.
The book of Revelation is like, I'm just not going to give you the facts. I want to give you everything else, which is why like numbers have meaning. So when we get to, the mark of the beast and 666, there's actually meaning behind that number. And we'll unfold all of that. And humans are often talked about in animals, in, natural phenomena are like moments in history. But that's what apocalyptic literature does. So it's just unveiling to us. It's letting us see the whole picture in a beautiful way. But most of the time, this is why I think really bad teaching has taken place, is because it's hard for us to understand. And so, somebody who has a microphone attached to their head will be like, this is what that means. And then you just have people who are like, yeah, I don't understand it. So you must be right.
Yeah.
And let's make a really cheesy Christian movie about this, which jacks up our theology based upon end time stuff, because it's apocalyptic literature and it's just weird for us. So I'm probably not going to teach it 100% right. I'm not sure if anybody ever has.
Yeah.
But when you understand it's apocalyptic literature, it just changes the way in which you even approach the book.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, let's just talk about Bible study and being a Bible teacher. It's really helpful to understand the genre of every book in your Bible. So the way we went through the book of Psalms this summer, that's all poetry. How you handle that is very different than how you handle a narrative, how you handle a letter. But the interesting thing about Revelation is that it is a letter, it is a prophecy, and it's apocalyptic. So we have three genres all kind of going into one. And so I'm going to do my best to be like, okay, this is the letter part, this is the prophecy part, this is the apocalyptic, but it all beautifully rolls together.
Yeah.
So it'll be, it's going to be confusing, but we'll try to make more sense of it in this space.
I think there was a little bit of like, even Saturday night here, it's an apocalypse. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's apocalypse?
So it's
good,
again, to people, but that goes back to our teachings our in the past of, apocalypse, it's all bad. And I'm like, actually, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And it's giving us windows into the unseen world.
Right.
And helping us understand really what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think this series is going to be exactly how you kind of prefaced it. This is meant to encourage you, right? And so what I was saying earlier is we told our team, hey, like, don't make the graphics, don't make the bumper video, don't make everything scary.
Yeah,
like everything we're looking up, Revelation is scary. We're like, we're trying to go the opposite of that, actually. Yeah. And so I'm excited about it.
The team did a great job, and all of the prep for it, and hopefully that is the goal. Hopefully in October, when we finish this series, we'll walk out and being like, I don't fully understand everything, but we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfect leading into, what's going to happen in November and into January, and, Lord knows what the future is going to hold. But people of Jesus, followers of Christ, like, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's
encouraging.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
So we got 7 churches next week, you said?
Yeah.
Right? So excited about that. And then this week, if you're listening to this when this podcast comes out, August 8th and 9th, we get the privilege of hosting our Global Leadership Summit. So why don't you speak into that a little bit? What's happening at GLS?
I would actually flip that over to you. Okay. You know way more that's going on. I mean, I've gone to the Global Leadership Summit. I think this is my 17th year in a row. I've gone to the GLS. Wow. So even when I was, back in Michigan and then Indiana, but this year we get to host it, which is really cool. So you talk more about
really
just the
excited.
details.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's 2 days, Thursday, Friday. great speakers, there's pastors, there's CEOs, there's like big business owners, right? And so they're all speaking into
Mike Krzyzewski, like,
yeah, coaches, yeah.
be great.
And so really excited about it. It's fun if you're interested in growing leadership, any sort of leadership, whether that's you're leading your family or leading a huge business, right?
They can
in
still
between.
sign up if they're listening to this right now.
Yep.
They can
We'll
still
drop
register.
the link in the bio on YouTube and all that stuff, but we're excited about it.
Yeah, it's world class teaching. I call it, and it's not all, it's Christian. It's not all Christian. I mean, it's just little leadership principles. But think of like TED Talks on steroids, and I think way better. Than the TED Talks. But it's all leadership based.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm excited too from a church standpoint. We have tons of groups like secular businesses that are just coming on our campus. It's going to be a great opportunity to just love on them and show them, hey, this is who One Life Church is.
I agree.
And so it's going to be a really fun week.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, remember, church is not a building we sit in. It's a movement we get to be a part of to help reach one more life for Jesus.